Hello and welcome back to the third game of this second round of the second group stages of the World Cup of Pokémon VGC, sponsored by Elgato. I'm still Jamie Boyt, and I'm going to be joined by the wonderful Sierra Hunter for the very first time, who I'm very excited to be casting with. And we're going to be jumping into the game between the Netherlands and Vietnam.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Obviously, Team Canada was on stream earlier, decided that wasn't enough for Canadian for everybody here. So here we have it. I'm excited to cast with you. I know we haven't had the opportunity yet to, so this should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely should be a lot of fun. And the game that we are going to be casting should be a lot of fun between the Netherlands and Vietnam. So we can just have a look at how they are doing in the group stages currently. And unfortunately, they both did take a loss in that first round. A very significant one for the Netherlands as well. 7-1 is going to really be hurting your differential there. So the Netherlands do need to be trying to put on that pressure, trying to be able to get those wins, because the differential is definitely going to be against them.
Yeah, it definitely hurts, but all the fire under them this week. I mean, this is a week to make things happen. You know, a little bit of, okay, this isn't working out, time to regroup. Vietnam also took that loss, which means we can make a comeback against them. So I'm excited for this match because it's going to be a lot on the line for these players.
Yeah, and this is going to be the first game of the matchup between the Netherlands and Vietnam. Of course, most of the matches do happen over the weekend, so none of them have happened so far. Just this one we're going to be able to cast over, so we can have a look at what the players are going to be bringing into this matchup. We're going to start off with the Netherlands and Sean Martens here.
Yeah, this is a nice team. So we have that Calyrex Shadow Rider. I mean, it's such a strong Pokemon, so hyper offensive, and a lot of offensive things on the team as well. I mean, Whimsicott's known for being able to set up those tailwinds. Shifu, so strong. Rillaboom being able to go for those strong grassy glides and have that fake out pressure. And it's all going to be rounded out with the Entei and a Nihilego, which don't get to see too often, but is such a strong attacker.
And it definitely pairs well with the Calyrex Shadow Rider as well, as one of the biggest nemesis to that Shadow Rider is the Incineroar, and Nihilego is one of the Pokemon that can just knock it out in one shot with that Power Herb, activating the Meteor Beam in one turn. So definitely some very good Pokemon coming out for Sean here. We'll have to see if he's able to contend with Long's team coming out for Vietnam. And yeah, they're going to be rocking a Groudon.
Yeah, there's a couple of big differences here, but a lot of the same Pokemon. We were just talking about the Nihilego, and again with the Whimsicott, again with the Rillaboom, but there's going to be the Groudon paired up with that Entei and the Regieleki. And Groudon, I mean, that can be such a strong Pokemon, being able to utilize the sun and stuff. So I'm excited to see how it fares with the rest of these core.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing a Whimsicott coming out from both sides of the field. So you're going to be matching the tailwinds, and usually Calyrex Shadow Rider would come out on top there because it is going to be faster than that Groudon. So both players opting here for that going fast mode with the tailwind, going for those powerful spread moves, either that Astral Barrage or that Precipice Blades. So we can jump into the game now to see what the players are going to be bringing.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of battle for speed, it looks like, in the match. Obviously, both players having the access to the Whimsicott. But Calyrex, of course, as you said, having that advantage, the fact it's just so fast. But it is going to be paired against a Regieleki, which is also known to be fast. So I'm excited to see which player is going to be adapting to maybe working a little bit of like a slower capacity, if they're just going to be battle for speed the entire time.
If you go with the Whimsicott versus the Whimsicott, you do kind of need to just be matching the tailwinds and trying to outspeed control your opponents. But there's only really the Whimsicott that can do that on the Calyrex side of the field, whereas the Regieleki is the option of choice coming out for Long, because we are going to be seeing this from Sean's side of the field. So yeah, the Regieleki would be able to get those Electro Webs that would just give this slight edge for the speed control if the tailwinds are matched, or even if the tailwinds aren't matched and the Whimsicotts are left on the bench, Regieleki would give that extra bit of speed control coming out. And because we do get a little bit of a sneak peek into the items here coming out from Sean's side of the field, there's no Choice Scarf on the Entei, item choice we do see quite commonly that would be able to boost up the speed even further. We'll have to see if that's going to be the same for the Entei coming out for long side of the field as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the speeds interact with both of these teams. You've got the options for the speed control, but they can just be matched, but slightly picked out by the Regieleki if it does go for those Electro Webs.
Speaking of items, of course, Whimsicott having the Sash means that Urshifu is going to have that Mystic Water instead, which means it can hit for a lot of damage. Already hits like a truck. So being able to get that extra output is going to be insane, but also a little more volatile not having that sash attached. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of happens there. And is it a little more frail in that aspect? Coming out though is going to be that Entei and Rillaboom, and it's going to be facing out against another Entei, but Whimsicott is going to be coming out.
Yeah, so Grass type and Entei is the Pokemon of choice for both players' side of the field. But the Rillaboom does have access to Fake Out. At least you can put a stop to the Whimsicott going for whatever move it would want to go for at this point. But if you do that, you leave yourself open to the Fire type attack that could come out from the Entei, whether that is that Flare Blitz or the Sacred Fire going into that Rillaboom. The opposing Entei, if it's carrying something like a Stone Edge or a Stomp and Tantrum, can threaten the opposing Entei, but also threatens the Whimsicott with its own Fire type attacks. If you go for a Fake Out and a Fire move into the Whimsicott, you can immediately get rid of the threat of Tailwind on your opponent's side of the field, which could be beneficial for the Groudon. If you've got your Regieleki or Whimsicott waiting in the back, you could be able to speed control yourself faster in that case. But at the same time, if the Whimsicott just goes for a Protect on the potential Fake Out and Fire move that could come out, that would be a wasted turn, and it would allow the Entei on Sean's side of the field to go for whatever it wants to go for. And if you do go for the Fake Out, it does leave the Rillaboom completely open to the Fire type attack.
Yeah, and there it is, that Protect coming out on the Whimsicott. So this Fake Out is going to be doing absolutely nothing long, of course, not wanting to get that Tailwind set up. And Sacred Fire, it was the double up. So Whimsicott not going anywhere this turn, but neither is Entei alongside. Is that Stone Edge not the most accurate, and it's going to miss on that very first turn.
All right, so that was turn 0 because nothing happens. So we'll just go into this turn 1 now. But at least you can't be faked out with the Whimsicott. You can get that Tailwind up if you do want to at this point. If you have access to Encore as well, you could go for an Encore into the Rillaboom. You would out-prioritize the Grassy Glide that could come out from the Rillaboom, so you would be able to lock it into that attack if you did have the option to do that. But instead, just going to be getting that speed control going with that Tailwind.
I mean, speed control looks like it's going to be the name of this game, so getting that setup is nice and safe. And Stone Edge is going to be connecting this time around. I mean, you never want to see that miss twice in a row, but the Whimsicott is going to be taking a massive hit from the Entei on alongside. Holding out the Focus Sash, but not going to matter, is it's going to take that burn, which doesn't matter. The double up was coming. That Rillaboom's going to be U-turning out, get a little bit of pivot, Whimsicott going down, but at least the speed control is going up, and this is going to be then a free swap on Tron's end as well.
And potentially going into their own Whimsicott, maybe to match the Tailwind. You could go into the Regieleki to start spreading some Electro Webs as well. Maybe even just go for the Groudon and just accept you're not going to be faster and just try and get the Entei powered up as well. It is going to be the Groudon that's going to be switching in with that U-turn, and that's definitely going to be the Pokemon that would threaten the Entei very heavily here. But you do boost up the opposing Sacred Fires as well. If you did hit that first Stone Edge into the Entei, the opposing Entei would have been KO'd at this point. But now on Sean's side of the field, you've got the Tailwind going, so your Entei is definitely going to be faster. You have the opportunity to either go for a Stone Edge to pick up the KO onto the opposing Entei, or go for the Sacred Fire into the Groudon. It wouldn't be able to pick up the knockout, but it would be doing a lot of damage because of that drought, and could pick up the burn, and maybe even enough to pick up the knockout in combination with the Calyrex Shadow Rider's Astral Barrage that could come out as well, because that is going to be a very strong combination of attack. Even the Entei on the opposing side of the field for long could be in range of that Astral Barrage. If it's not Assault Vest here, should be in range. If it is Assault Vest, it'll be pretty close if it is able to be picking up the knockouts. But yeah, the Entei is going to be switching out into that Rillaboom here, maybe fearing that it would be KO'd and start giving that Grim Nay boost.
Yeah, not finding out what that item is this time around. Astral Barrage is going to be coming out, of course, and it's going to be dealing a chunk of damage to both these Pokemon, especially into that Groudon, though. Sacred Fire from the Entei, looking clean it up, and with the Sun, it is Groudon, unfortunately, going to be going down before it can make any impact in this match.
Yeah, and the Rillaboom is not in the position it wants to be in either. You can't fake out either of these Pokemon. Well, you could fake out the Entei for some chip, but wouldn't get the flinch because of the inner focus. So yeah, the Calyrex in a really strong position here with that Entei. If you go into the opposing Entei, then you're not going to be doing too much. The Regieleki is going to come in, but you've still got Tailwinds on your side of the field. So your Calyrex and Entei should still be outspeeding the Regieleki as well. So you could just go for a double up into that Regieleki at this point with Astral Barrage and whatever attack the Entei would want to go for. Maybe even just go for the Sacred Fire if you're trying to get that burn onto the Regieleki, if it is going to be held in that Focus Sash. If it's not even holding the Focus Sash, any attack coming from the Calyrex or the Entei, the Astral Barrage or the Sacred Fire should be picking up the KO. And Rillaboom's really not doing too much here at all. It could go for a U-turn to try and pivot itself out into the opposing Entei, but then that's still not really achieving too much this turn. The fake out being completely useless. The grassy glides could do some good damage to the Calyrex. Maybe it's holding the knockoff as well. That could take out the Calyrex in one shot if it's able to survive the turn, whether that's just the Astral Barrage going into the end, into the Rillaboom, because the Sacred Fire would need to hit that Rillaboom for the KO. It's probably not going to be enough with just the Astral Barrage, but then you do need to contend with the Regieleki as well, but not this turn if it's going to be going for the Protect.
Yeah, Regieleki not wanting to be going down. Opposing Rillaboom going to be going for the Grassy Glide, dealing a bunch of damage to the Calyrex. Of course, is going to hold on quite comfortably, be able to fire back with this Ice Shock, but not able to take it quite down on that hit. Bringing the Rillaboom real low, not quite. Not going to matter though. Sean going for the double up, needing to get that Rillaboom out of there to not risk a Grassy Glide taking out that Calyrex next turn, is going to be picking up that KO.
Yeah, very strong play coming out from Sean. The Regieleki Protect effectively being useless that turn. Rillaboom don't often carry Protect. There was no fake out flinches that could have come out, so a double up into that slot was going to pick up a knockout, either on the Rillaboom or the Entei that could have switched in at this point. The Regieleki did have the opportunity to get off an attack. That combination of attack with the Grassy Glide, if that was a Thunderbolt or a Volt Switch, would probably have picked up the knockout onto the opposing Calyrex there. So maybe a slight missed opportunity for Long, but a very good prediction coming out from Sean to take out that Rillaboom. Now the Entei is going to be in range of the Astral Barrage. The Regieleki is looking very threatened as well. There should still be one more turn of Tailwind, which should put the Calyrex and the Entei still faster, and yeah, should just be able to get some good damage down on the field.
Extreme speed from the Entei, doing some chip onto the Regieleki, making sure that it is within range of this Astral Barrage, and it is going to be double KO here, as this Calyrex Shadow Rider is just able to ride its way to a victory, leaving Sean at a 1-0 for this first match.
And there was no Whimsicott coming out from long side of the field. Regieleki was left in the back. That just allowed Sean to be able to get that speed control going. The Whimsicott wasn't taken out on the first turn because it did have access to the Protect. That means it was guaranteed to get that Tailwind up, and that meant that the Calyrex and the Entei was going to be outspeeding all of Long's Pokemon, and we saw that the combination of attacks of just the Astral Barrage and the Sacred Fire in the Sun, which was gifted to it by the opposing Groudon, was enough just to steamroll through the rest of the team. The Regieleki, if it got off the Thunderbolt, may have been able to swing some things, because that should have been able to pick up the knockout onto the Calyrex at that point. And then you're down to the Entei and whatever was waiting in the back. And yeah, Sean was even able to win that without revealing that last Pokemon, which is definitely good going into the best of 3 when you don't have to reveal any information that's unnecessary. It definitely puts you at an advantage going into the next games.
Of course, being able to keep that information as well, forcing Long into a position of having to adjust going into this next game, because being able to get that Tailwind and get that Calyrex in a position to sweep the match, I mean, that is a surefire way to let your opponent get a 2-0. So big adjustments needing to be made. Regieleki, of course, has access to being able to get speed control, but not in that position. And unfortunately, it's just volatile to just going down. So Long's really going to have to adjust in this game too, and like respect the speed control option that Sean can have.
You do have your own speed control option. You do have access to your own Whimsicott that could be going for that Tailwind as well. Maybe leading with the Regieleki as well. You could just start spamming the Electro Webs. Even if the Tailwind gets up, Regielecki's so fast that even just at -1 in the Tailwind should be able to outspeed and get another Electro Web off into the opposing Pokemon. Maybe the Calyrex would be able to still outspeed at that point. But yeah, you do need to be starting to get that speed control alongside of the field. Just being able to get your Calyrex and Entei into a position where it was outspeeding and picking up KOs on the opposing team, you need to be able to put a stop to that. And the Tailwinds, matching the Tailwinds at least would put you on level footing with the opposing Calyrex and the Entei. And then you'd have the opportunity for your own Entei to maybe deal with the opposing Enteis. You have Stone Edge at least on the Entei on Sean's side of the field. We have to see if that's still the case for Long's Entei as well. But Regieleki could be crucial here. Maybe a Regieleki and a Whimsicott leads. If you match Tailwinds and get Electro Webs, it won't be doing too much damage on those turns, but then that would set you up for future turns. And you need to be able to put a stop to that Calyrex from being able to snowball. As we saw, it was just able to get into a position where it spammed those Astral Barrages and nothing was able to stop it.
Oh, of course. So it's all going to be how it gets adjusted in the first match, and even not getting too much damage the first turns, but being able to find that speed control could be important. But instead of speed control, we're going to see an adjustment in form of them hitting the field next to the Rillaboom, facing down against Rillaboom and Entei on Sean's side.
Well, that's definitely going to be threatening down the opposing Entei and Rillaboom very strongly. Yeah, Nihilego is definitely the Pokemon you want to be facing down both of these Pokemon here. You've got access to Fake Out onto the opposing Rillabooms. I did miss which Rillaboom did go first, and you should definitely need to pay attention to that to see whether you would be able to Fake Out first. If the Rillaboom on Sean's side of the field is faster, you can put a stop to the Nihilego at this point. But if Long gets the Fake Out into the opposing Rillaboom first, Nihilego pretty much just gets its pick of whatever it wants to KO at this point. Meteor Beam would definitely be enough onto the opposing Entei. A Rillaboom with an Assault Vest should be able to survive a Sludge Bomb, but then that's still going to put it in range of whatever attack that Long would want to go for in the future. So definitely quite a nice adjustment coming out for Long here. Quite surprising not to see the Whimsicott from Sean's side of the field in this lead, but it wouldn't have been wanting to face down this opposing Rillaboom and the Nihilego anyway, especially because the Nihilego, it still does have access to Trick Room. It's not commonly run as well. That could have been the reason why the Nihilego was run into this lead in the first place, but just going to be protecting itself from the potential Fake Out here.
Yeah, not wanting to risk anything, and it was Sean's Rillaboom that went for the Fake Out first this time around, but we see that Longs didn't even go for it, so I still don't know which one is necessarily faster. Sacred Fire going to be hitting a bunch of damage into the Rillaboom. Not only that, picking up the burn. It's not going to go down this turn because it is going to U-turn out, pivoting out into something else. But, I mean, the next time it hits the field, it's not going to be around for much longer, which is a little unfortunate. But at least now Long can pivot into something else and have that completely healthy Nihilego out on the field to try and make something happen.
Even with a pretty much KO'd Pokemon, if it's still in the back and could switch in, you've still got at least one turn of Fake Out. So, yeah, definitely, unfortunately, getting that burn, really putting a timer onto that Rillaboom, but still has the option to go for Fake Outs in the future. And Groudon is definitely going to be threatening down this Entei once again. Nihilego has made it through the turn of Fake Out. It can just go for the Sludge Bomb or the Meteor Beam at this point. It doesn't have to contend with the possibility of a Grassy Glide and maybe even an Extreme Speed. Because Nihilego's defense is so low, maybe that's going to be enough to pick up the knockout on the Nihilego. Grassy Glide does a significant amount of damage to the Nihilego, and even a resisted hit from the Extreme Speed is going to be pretty strong, so we'll have to see if that is the option that Sean would want to go for, and even if it is enough to pick up the knockout onto the Nihilego. But then if you do go for that combination of attack, you leave the Groudon open to get a knockout. It would get the knockout onto the Entei with a Precipice Blade, and a Heat Crash would easily be able to pick up the knockout onto the opposing Rillaboom. So we'll have to see where the attacks are going to land here.
Right, Grassy Glide coming out, picking up a good amount of damage, but of course, not nearly enough, as Meteor Beam is going to be the move of choice. And I mean, normally takes that turn to power up, but of course, Power Herb, this is going to be a one-turn hit, and I'm sure we all know where this is targeting, going down into that Entei, and it is more than enough to be picking up that KO, especially with that critical hit. And this is going to become a very scary jellyfish, as not only did it get that special attack boost from Meteor Beam, but also from that Beast Boost. Substitute, though, coming out from the Audon, so something to actually help it stay in field longer than it did last game.
Yeah, it was taken out pretty quickly in the previous game, so Substitute is absolutely going to help its longevity there. But not picking up the knockout onto the opposing Rillaboom. It did have the option to go for a Heat Crash into that Rillaboom, but leaving it on the field here means that Grassy Glide could pick up the knockout onto that Nihilego. It can also break the Substitute of that Groudon, and Whimsicott is the Pokemon that's switching in here. Does very commonly carry Encore as its move of choice. That could be locking that Groudon into the Substitute, or even locking the Nihilego into the Meteor Beam. Wouldn't be too bad here, because it has used up its Power Herb for the one-turn charge. If you Encore it into that Meteor Beam, it'll have to take 2 turns to be able to attack, so you could make it useless this turn and then just pick it up with the Grassy Glide the next turn. But yeah, it's just going to be protecting here so it doesn't take the attacks from the Rillaboom or the Whimsicott, but Encore is just going to go straight into that Groudon.
Of course, being able to hit through the Substitute. So this Groudon, not really in the nicest of positions, but at least the Jellyfish is going to stick around, as of course Grassy Glide's going to be hitting into the Protect. And I mean, this Groudon is nice and safe out on the field, but not really being able to make any impact either.
Yeah, it would survive a few turns, so you can take it out when take out the Substitute with the Grassy Glides and maybe a Moonblast, depending on how defensively trained the Groudon is. But then it would just set up the Substitute once again, and not going to be able to do too much damage. It had the opportunity to get that Heat Crash off into the Rillaboom, but now it's just not going to be doing any damage for the next few turns. Nihilego still definitely going to be in range of that Grassy Glide, that the Rillaboom will want to go for. If you go for the Grassy Glide into the Nihilego, you're not taking any damage this turn with the Whimsicott or the Rillaboom. So if that's the move choice that the Rillaboom does opt for, it frees up the Whimsicott to do whatever it wants. It could set up the Tailwind this turn, but at this point, you've got the Whimsicott and almost certainly the Shadow Rider waiting in the back. You may not even need the Tailwind at this point. Maybe if the Regieleki is the Pokemon waiting in the back, or the opposing Whimsicott if it wants to match the Tailwinds. But you could try and break the substitute with the Grassy Glides or the Moonblast on the opposing Groudon. But really, you just need to go for the Grassy Glide into that Nihilego. Maybe expecting the Nihilego to switch out into the opposing Rillaboom would be a good play, or the Whimsicott that is switching in either, because that is also going to be able to take the Grassy Glide quite comfortably.
Yeah, it's going to be a swap out on both players' end, though, as the Rillaboom is going to be swapping out into the Calyrex here. I mean, I like the switch on Long's end to be bringing out that Whimsicott instead. I mean, this way you can also start to do something, because Nihilego wasn't looking so good. Groudon, of course, just going to substitute again, but at least it's hiding behind the sub and being able to get some slow grassy terrain recovery.
Yeah, it's definitely going to still be quite healthy and should be able to take even an Astral Barrage after the substitute is broken at this point. But yeah, very nice switch in for the Calyrex there. And the Nihilego fearing the Encore from the Protect or the Grassy Glide coming out from the Rillaboom either would have put a stop to the Nihilego that turn. Instead, switching out into the opposing Whimsicott. Now we've got the position where we can just match Tailwinds, but the Whimsicott on long side of the field, if it goes for Tailwind, it doesn't really help too much because the Groudon's still going to be going for those substitutes. Even if it's able to get off the attacks, it's still going to underspeed both the Whimsicott and the Calyrex at this point. So if I was the Whimsicott on long side of the field, may not even opt for the Tailwinds, because if you go for the Tailwind as well, you could be potentially encored into that in the next turn.
Instead, encored. So using Sean's tricks against him, going to encore into Sean's Whimsicott here, which did go for the Tailwind, so Sean's got the speed, but it's also going to be to himself. Astral Barrage, though, going to come out, do a bunch of damage and take out the Whimsicott, so no Tailwind on long side for this, and it is going to break the substitute as well.
Yeah, it's going to give the Grenade boost to the Calyrex as well, so we'll have to see if this Groudon is able to survive that attack, because it's now got the boost going on the Calyrex. It does have to go for that substitute, of course, because it is Encored, so definitely going to be surviving the Astral Barrage at this point. And the Encore should be running out, and the Whimsicott is now Encored into that Tailwind. Can't be going for another Encore into the Groudon. So it's going to be freeing up this Groudon. It's just out on the field for a few turns, just chilling, but now it's going to be able to fire off the attacks because the Encore is going to end. The Nihilego is going to be pretty threatened by the Calyrex still, and Astral Barrage should still be able to pick up the knockout onto that Nihilego thanks to that Grenade boost that it's already got. So you do need to be protecting your Nihilego and trying to pick up the knockout onto the Calyrex this turn, because if you can't pick up the knockout with your Groudon onto the Calyrex, it's still going to be able to break the substitute with the first Astral Barrage, and then you're going to have to take the second one. We'll have to see if that's going to be able to survive that. The grassy terrain's gone, so there's no more recovery for the Groudon. It's stuck at the HP. It's out for the rest of the game at this point. So we'll have to see how both how the Groudon is trained to be able to survive that attack. The Whimsicott probably should be switching out in this position because it's not going to be able to do any damage this turn. It is locked into that Tailwind, so you do have the Pokemon waiting in the back to be able to do something for next to the Calyrex, because otherwise you're just spamming the Astral Barrage. That's not such a bad thing because it will take out the Nihilego at this point and take out the substitute for the Groudon. But yeah, if the Rillaboom switches in on a Precipice Blaze, that's going to be able to take it quite comfortably. And Heat Crash as well, it's no longer in the sun, so it won't be doing as much damage as it normally would.
And of course, Whimsicott needing to reset that Encore, switching out into the Rillaboom, and as fast as Grassy Terrain ended, it is going to restart with that Grassy Surge here. And then it's going to be down to just what is going to be done here. No Protect, so Astral Barrage is going to be coming out, dealing a bunch of damage, is going to be taking down the Nihilego here, and fading that substitute. So it's all down to how much Precipice Blades, if the move of choice, is going to be doing, because something needs to be done with this Calyrex and fast. No Protect means it's going to get yet again another special attack boost here. Precipice Blaze is going to connect, not the most accurate move, but is going to double connect. It is going to be taking down that Calyrex. Not very much on the Rillaboom, but the Calyrex is what needed to be taken out here, and Long is able to find that KO.
Yeah, that life orb definitely helping with that KO. Probably not enough to pick up the knockout without it, but yeah, the Rillaboom has still hit the field as well. You get the Whimsicott coming back in. It's no longer Encored. It could go for its own Encore at this point. You could Encore the Groudon into Precipice Blades so that it can't go for a Heat Crash into your own Rillaboom, and then Rillaboom should be able to beat this Groudon at this point without it having access to the Heat Crash. But of course, there's the Rillaboom waiting in the back for long as well. It is going to be burned here, so not going to be doing too much damage to the opposing side of the field. You can get those fake outs going at least. You can put a stop to an attack that come out from one of the Pokemon. I think we did see, no, we didn't see the speed tiers because only the Rillaboom on Sean's side of the field went for the fake out for on that first turn. And again, I made the rookie mistake of not seeing who's grassy terrain went first here, but the Sean's Rillaboom is going to be going for that fake out.
I'm taking rookie mistake as an insult because I also missed this. Coming out, Whimsicott, instead of Encore though, is just going to be going for picking up the kill into the Rillaboom. It's going to go down because of the burn, but instead just securing that as
Hopefully we are back at this point, so apologies there for the slight technical hiccup there, but we are back into where the game was, but at this point it's still looking like it is going to be Sean's game. It is able to go for the Encore with the Whimsicott. That's going to lock that Groudon down into that Precipice Blades, so it can't be doing too much damage to the opposing Rillaboom, which can do a lot of damage with the Wood Hammer, so the Encore actually unnecessary there completely. It's just going to be able to pick up the knockout onto the opposing Groudon, even without that Encore, just making it much more safe so that it didn't have access to that Heat Crash. The Rillaboom even being out faster than that Groudon, maybe the Groudon would have been faster, it could have got that Heat Crash off, so Encore still coming into play there for Sean's side of the field. So yeah, very, very strong showing coming out there for Sean, and able to take the first game for the Netherlands and Vietnam. So yeah, that's going to hopefully give them quite a lot of momentum going into this next game. Are we back in the game with the horrible internet that's coming out here, Sierra?
Yeah, I'm not. There is too much happening. The internet could not handle it at this point, but back here now.
Yeah, so it seems Sean was too powerful there in that game, taking out the internet even after they had already won that game at that point. So yeah, very, very strong showing coming out there. Whimsicott was brought for long side of the field in that second game, but was left in the back at that point. And by the time it could have set up the tailwind, even if it went for it at that point, it wouldn't have been beneficial because Sean still had the speed at that point.
Yeah, no checks out. I mean, with a team that's hyper offensive and has that Calyrex, has that Tailwind, I mean, it's all about the speed at that point. Being able to really control that and just not even be pressured with keeping that speed is just a surefire way for a hyper offensive team like that to be taking a win.
And we saw it very, very easily take that win there. So very strong showing for Sean there and for taking that first game for the Netherlands. So that's going to be it for this third game. We are going to be jumping into another short break, and we'll be right back with the United Kingdom versus Brazil.